So obviously we want to pay really close attention to these numbers and the stats, but I think it's also possible for you to hit all the numbers that you set goals around, but not necessarily build a successful program. Can you tell me what you think what success looks like really when you're thinking about DEI?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, move away from the picture of success looking like it's just hiring, because the worst thing you can do is you might feel great in the moment that you're hiring for diversity, but if you don't have the programs in place, those communities won't be able to thrive as much as you would like. And so there's two ways to do this. You either really focus on the programs, and you don't have to have it doesn't have to be a perfect picture, but you have to start to think about what that should look like, whether it's your engagement program or your feedback and development cycle, compensation and equity, your general diversity inclusion program, whatever it is. You've got to kind of work with that, and then you can work backwards and then decide to hiring. If you don't have the luxury of waiting for that, then what I would suggest is that you really be thoughtful in how, back to the authenticity of your brand, you kind of really relay that we're still trying to figure out what a picture of success looks like, and we're figuring out as we go. So, hey, you might not be coming in and we have all the programs, but understand that we're asking everybody to kind of join in and figure that along the way. And then, even though I said two, there's a third option, which is, I can't believe I didn't realize this is what Affirm did, which is we just literally, as we were hiring for Velocity, we then at the same time applied everything that we did was through a lens of DEI. So every program that was in place, we immediately reevaluated through the lens of DEI. We brought third parties in, so there was no bias. We all got all hands on deck, not just recruiters, people team, the engineering team, the executive team. We then also let our board know. So everybody was understanding that this was initiative, and it was really successful for us. And so like that, to me, if you can get that in your DNA, in the fabric of what you do, like somehow, like, and if you're early on right now, you have so much advantage to really put in your cultural values and in your mission statement and so forth. That is what success looks like. And nobody can tell me that you can't do it. I'm not saying that Affirm definitely has a lot more work to do.
Right.
But we are doubling and tripling headcount every single year. Yeah. Right. And so we still, that's why I'm saying it's going to be it's a constant evolution, and it takes a lot of dedication. Yeah. So you might not see your results overnight.
Totally makes sense. I'm hearing that we don't have any questions yet. I would love to get some questions from the audience, but I can keep going, of course. Let's see. So we talked a little bit about making sure that this is part of the program overall and bringing this up in the planning meetings. Have you ever had conversations with a hiring manager who has gone through the interview process with somebody, but it turns out that maybe they're not going to improve the numbers, and this is the only hire they can make? How do you help them through that conversation and the decision on whether to hire that person or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we focus a lot on. I'll take a step back just to understand our process. There's a couple things that's important to note. We don't move forward with the hire unless everybody gets on board. Now, the hiring manager ultimately has the decision, but it's the hiring manager's responsibility to get everybody on board. So if there are folks that say no hire or strong no hire, we'd really drill in. And we have checkpoints and audits all through our offer approval process. So that is flagged along the way, all the way up to me if it has to come up to me, so that I understand, like, hey, why are we moving forward with this person? We've had engineers who are just like, amazing, like where you're just like, wow, like how did they do that well throughout every single technical screen? But from a cultural perspective, or if it was questions around our diversity program, if there were flags, we do not bring them on. And we have that commitment from our engineering team, which I think goes a long way. So that's important to understand. As far as answering the question, our hiring managers are responsible for the diversity inclusion component of our interview process, not the recruiters.
Yeah.
So they have to ask the questions, and in the scorecard, it is a required field.
Yeah.
So that's really important to understand. What I'm trying to say there, it becomes top of mind for them all the time.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, as far as a candidate, which is kind of where you're really driving at, I think, which is they need to hire. We try to balance it out. We have a prioritization of how we think about engineering. We try to think about, well, does this engineering, maybe we should put this engineer in another team, because great talent is great talent, right? And so if we're going to hire somebody and, everything checks the box and the person's qualified and we want to move forward and we did everything we could, can we move forward? Yeah, we move forward, but we think about, is this the right team? Maybe we move to another engineering team. Like, let's try to figure out how we can balance that out a little bit. So then we start to have those conversations and we bring the candidate along the way to make sure that they're a part of that conversation and they also feel like yeah,
Right.
that works for them as well. So it's not perfect right now. We have some work to do there, but that situation is very valid and it does come up quite a bit.
Yeah, and making it top of mind early on is very important.